Well, I'm super excited to talk to you today because I wanted to get nerdy about Juliana with you since the day we brought him into our Colorado stores. We have stores in Denver if you didn't know. So Whitney, thank you for being here. We are here in Nevada City at the Parliament Trail System put together. These trails were built by the local group Bonk, which does amazing work. So shout out to them for putting together an amazing place for us to ride. But right now we're here to talk about the Juliana Joplin. This is what they call the Downhillers XC bike. It's a 130 in the front, 120 in the rear. It's got a 65.5-degree head angle, so it's a lightweight trail bike, aggressive cross-country bike. So we're gonna get down and talk about it, cool?
Awesome.
So this is how this is gonna go. We have broken down these bikes into 5 categories: climbing, descending, handling, pedaling efficiency, and value. And you've had a couple days to ride this bike in a lot of different terrain. You have 100 points, and you've been able to divvy them up and award the points to the different characteristics based on how you felt about the bike. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, let's get started.
Awesome.
So we're gonna start with climbing. You gave climbing 25 points. So tell us, how'd the bike climb and why did you give it such a strong score?
Yeah, that was one of the strongest characteristics that stood out to me about this bike was how comfortable it was to climb on. I think that they did a very great job at having the geometry as such that it was comfortable, but you felt good moving around on it. It was super efficient and planted. And so overall, that was my favorite thing about this bike in general was climbing was enjoyable on
Were
this
there
bike.
certain parts of the climb or certain situations that kind of stood out as sort of an aha moment?
Yeah, I think that the shorter chainstay made so it went around switchbacks really easily, as well as just kind of those long sustained climbs. The position that you were on in the bike was comfortable.
Yeah. All right, so up next is descending. You gave it a score of 18. So tell us, how did it go downhill and kind of describe the sensations you felt?
Yeah, the trails here, there was a nice variety. I definitely felt that it excelled in some of the really fun, smooth, jumpy type descending.
Like flow trail kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But once we got on some of the rocks and a little bit more chundery, I definitely noticed the bike more then.
Right.
To me, a bike that's functioning in really well is something I don't notice. And that was one of the things that came up in my mind when riding over rocks.
So it sort of get overwhelmed when the trail got chunky?
Yeah, it was a little bit harsher on that kind of chunky terrain. But again, depending on where you're riding, that might not be an issue. But for this bike specifically, when you only have 100 points to give up,
you got to give more and less.
Someone's got to give up some points.
Yep, cool. All right, so for handling, you went kind of right down the middle there at 21 points. So how'd the bike maneuver?
Yeah, and as we talked about from descending, I gave it less. I gave it a little bit more in the handling because I did feel that both descending and climbing, it did a great job at doing what I wanted it to.
Yeah, it seems like it's pretty balanced in that it's easy to kind of get in and out of turns.
Very much.
And then up to a certain point of downhill, you get some confidence because it's a little bit more on the capable side of an XC bike. So cool. I'm glad you like the handling.
Absolutely.
So our next category, this one kind of surprised me because it's, on paper it's an XC bike, but you gave it a 16 for pedaling efficiency, even though you gave it a high score for climbing. So talk to me about the sensations you felt while you were pedaling.
Yeah, so, this was a really interesting category and I appreciate it because there's definitely the difference between pedaling efficiency and climbing. Though it was a very good climber, the geometry of the bike lended to that climbability, but there were times when I was riding it on kind of some rocky moves that I didn't have that same, like when I was putting down the power in the pedals to get up and over stuff, it didn't give me that same oomph that I would expect out of a bike with more travel or designed more for that. And so I felt a little wanting in that, but it didn't take up any of the climbability. It was more on the power moves on rocks.
Right, when you get that little quick burst, which I guess makes sense because they position this bike as the Downhillers cross-country bike, so it's trying to be a lightweight pedalable bike, but still for aggressive, riding. So our last category is value, and you gave this a 20, kind of right down the middle. The Juliana Joplins go all the way from $3,500 with an aluminum frame and a more entry-level build, all the way up to the high end at 10 grand. So what about this bike gave you kind of that score for value?
So to start with, just the overall experience of the bike, I really enjoyed. And so that led to the value score part of it. The other would be, I really appreciated the female touches that Juliana put to the bike. It's got narrower bars, the grips are narrower, the tuning to the suspension is for the lighter weight rider. And so those types of things, you know, as a woman, you don't have to change anything on the bike.
It starts off kind of closer to the right bike.
Exactly.
Right.
You kind of, out of the gate, it's the bike that you want to have.
Cool. So, well done. I know it's hard to divvy up the scores when you like a bike. It's hard to pick and choose what you like better. But who would you say this bike is for? If you had to recommend this to a friend, what kind of rider is going to be like, yes, that's the bike?
Yeah, so being from Colorado, we have a lot of climbing, and I would
Those are
say
big mountains.
they are. I would say that the woman that is either getting into mountain biking, that wants to have a little bit more confidence-inspiring bike, but still have it be very maneuverable, or for the female that wants a solid climber that is going to go tackle the climbs, but still enjoy the descents.
Right. Definitely kind of pedal with the room for growth if you're new to the sport, or if you come with experience, you want a bike that's got some capability, but is still in that kind of XC category.
Absolutely. It's a bike that you can have fun as an experienced rider or grow into.
Yeah, very cool. So thank you, Whitney. This was a lot of fun. If you out there are curious about any of the Joplins or Tallboys, you can come check us out at mikesbikes.com or any of our stores in the Denver area or Northern California. Thanks.